Hello and welcome to the Pole Position podcast on the Let's Talk Sport YouTube channel with myself, Jamie Davies, and Jack Price, who of course enjoys his motorsport, and I'm sure he enjoyed the weekend as of course we had our first Formula One Grand Prix of the season, first out of 21 races. It's going to be a long year. Hopefully not in a bad way. Hopefully just because it's a long year I've never had more than 21 races. But anyway, the first race went down for Sebastian Vettel, his second race win in a row in Australia. I'm forgetting my words. Of course, he won last year with Ferrari. The only difference was with the picture this time of him and Bedene having a good high five when he's driving the car into the pit was that there was a halo on it. That ugly damn thing. I mean, just the first race, and they say it's a new era. It's an era I would like to see gone very soon. But anyway, Sebastian Vettel won. He stopped Hamilton in it with a bit of luck. Even Sebastian Vettel has said it himself. But Jack, if Vettel wants to win against Hamilton in the whole championship this year, he's got to win those races, whether there is luck or not.
Yeah, it doesn't matter either way. It's still 25 points and it's a win, isn't it? That's what Vettel needs. That's what Ferrari needs. They need as many points as possible and as many race wins. I mean, they keep talking about it, how Ferrari might not be in the sport in a few years' time. They keep playing that card. But, if they keep getting these wins and pushing for this championship, then, there's no doubt that they're probably not going to leave anyway. But if they keep winning and they try and push for this world title and, most importantly, I think for them, the constructors, then, they're not going to go anywhere. But it's important for them to keep this going. So no matter what luck that people seem to think happened, Ferrari are going to take that, of course.
You mentioned the Constructors' Championship for Ferrari. They haven't won it in 10 years. 10 years. And since then, it's been the dominance of Red Bull. Well, Brawn, if you count 2009, Red Bull and Mercedes. Yeah. It needs to change.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's the thing that's been going on for many years now, isn't it? And once a team is winning, it's sort of dominant, apart from obviously Brawn. But Brawn became Mercedes, so to an extent, I suppose. But I think that needs to change, and we've been promised this, title battle where three teams are fighting for it. But we were promised that last year, and Red Bull weren't as dominant as they'd like to be. Ferrari, went off the boil at the end. And obviously Mercedes, won quite comfortably in the end. So we're hoping that this year is a little bit different. And by what we saw at Australia, that could happen. I mean, Red Bull are still a little bit behind, but when they have tracks that like their car more, the high downforce tracks, then obviously they're going to come into play as well.
Of course, we'll listen to Sebastian Vettel right now. This is what he had to say to the F1 feed after his win in Australia.
Well, I mean, it's been the other way around a couple of times, especially last year. So, I think what goes around comes around. Maybe sometimes it feels bad to wait for it, but on a day like this, obviously, you don't mind. And overall, I think it's a great result for the team. Obviously, we did our homework. We spoke about exactly that before the race, and obviously you never know what happens, and that's the proof that you have to remain sharp. So as soon as I saw the virtual safety car, I knew what to do, and we tried to do everything, and it worked. It was tight, but it worked. Well, pretty much the picture we saw all weekend. With I think we are probably 3-4 tenths behind in all conditions. Qualifying yesterday was a bit exceptional. I think we didn't get our laps together, and Lewis, on the other hand, did a good lap, so the gap looked a bit bigger than it actually is, I think. And today, I think you saw in the race, he was the fastest man, but we had enough pace and good pace to, especially in the second stint, stay ahead and not be worried about the pressure that he tried to put on.
And that was Sebastian Vettel there after winning the Australian Grand Prix on Sunday. I must admit, I still feel as though Sebastian Vettel, I mean, there was a bit of press conference talks between him and Lewis Hamilton before and after the race. Not spatter, not stuff like that. Not like Jamie Carragher style. But obviously, straight away that mind games of, I've got to battle you all year round if it's going to be like last year. But I still feel like Sebastian Vettel just isn't as tough as Lewis Hamilton. Yes, he got the first win of the season already, Vettel. He looks like he could be the favourite for Bahrain. But I just feel as though long run, he's still got to favour Hamilton.
Yeah, I think the way he sort of portrays himself doesn't always look like he's showing off confidence. You don't look at him and you think, yeah, they're gonna win massively. I think sometimes that's what's good about Kimi Räikkönen is the fact that he says nothing makes him look more confident than say he is. But Vettel sort of comes out and says these few things, then Hamilton has a quip back at him, and he doesn't really know what to say. He sort of looks there like, oh, what can I say? And I think sometimes he doesn't show how maybe confident he should be. He's at Ferrari. He's at a great team. He's always wanted to be there. Yeah, it hasn't gone well for him the few years he's been there. But come on, let's try and work together and win this championship. I think he needs to, as well as the team, because sometimes the team doesn't really, for me, ooze confidence. I mean, Maurizio Ivabene ignores everybody in the pit lane. And everyone that tries to talk to him, he just gets ignored and shown the door. And that's not really helpful. You want to show how well your car is and how well you think your team is. And the fact that you don't really say anything is, it doesn't really help them, I think. And that really hampers them. Whereas you look at Niki Lauda and Toto Wolff, any question you go ask them, they'll happily say it. I mean, Niki Lauda's as blunt as anything. He said on Sunday, I'm looking for Valtteri to get 6th place. I think he should be getting there. And then he struggles to get 8th, and you think, oh, I wonder what he's going to say after the race. But that's just it. They tell it how it is. And I watched Sky F1's coverage on Saturday, I think. And they tried to chat to Riva Bene, and he says, "Hi, Riva, how are you?" And he just blanks him, doesn't even say hello, and he just walks away. And you think, no, you need to show a bit. You're Ferrari. You can't cover up everything. You need to speak to the media because you're one of the biggest teams on the grid.
It's funny that, and you'd think. Do you think it's because he's just so focused? Maybe. I know they've all got a job to do, but at the end of the day, an interview is still kind of talking, isn't it? It's not like you have to do a lot. You just got to be careful what you have to say.
Yeah, you've just got to say something, I always think. I mean, I sometimes don't understand why they talk to people on the pits while the race is going on. Because surely as a chief of a team, the last thing you want to be doing is talking to the fans. And I get that. I get why they do it, but I still think it must be annoying for them. But when you're post-race and pre-race, you should be as talkative as ever. And I know Arriva Bene does do a few interviews, but when people try and ask for one, unless his PA or unless the media person has said you're doing this interview, he doesn't do anything else apart from that. So, but I don't think that's going to change. That's just how he is, and I think maybe that's how the team is. But they need to ooze more confidence, I think.
Well, of course, someone did finish second in that race yesterday, and for Hamilton, it wasn't the position he wanted at the end of the race at Albert Park. This is what he had to say after getting a disappointing second place.
Does it make it harder to have been in control of a race like this and to lose it, or a little easier to know that you didn't lose out of anything you did just because there was a virtual safety car?
Does it make it harder?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's always different when you lose a race. Yeah, I think it's definitely quite hard right now. It always is. It's never easy to lose a race. But I did everything I was supposed to do, and so that I am in disbelief because I did everything that I was supposed to do. I came, I was prepared, I drove as well as I could. I didn't put a foot wrong, and all of a sudden I came out behind, and I'm thinking, what just happened? So I know as much as you, as I was just saying just now. But at least in my heart, I know that I gave everything this weekend and I didn't leave a stone unturned. I'm sure the team is feeling pain right now, but we'll regroup and I'm sure work on it. But of course, I can't comment on what it is or tell you if I'm upset about the decision or anything like that because I don't know what it was. Yeah, definitely feel positive. I'm so happy that we have a car that we can fight with. I think the Ferraris are very, very quick in the race, and it was no easy race, that's for sure. They had some good pace today. And then, yeah, I mean, we're going to other races where they're going to potentially their performance is going to be a little bit higher, and there's going to be races where our performance is a little bit higher. But I think it's going to be a close battle through the year, is my current feeling.
Well, Hamilton there saying that it could be a very close ending to the season. We hope so, because last season it all ended pretty much after Singapore when Raikkonen and Vettel went into each other. We all know it was well, in Vettel's eyes, it was Verstappen's fault, but we all know it was actually the Germans' fault. Sorry, Seb. I know you watch us every week, but I do apologise. I hope you didn't watch this one. So Lewis Hamilton, I've said this before, in the build up to the new season, he really wanted to see a challenge. He wanted to, obviously he wants to win the world title, but he wants to win it where it's between him and at least two other drivers or two other teams. For it to go all the way down to the wire for that final race in Abu Dhabi, and he's been perked up. He really wants to do well, but he wants it for the fans as well, doesn't he? I think I've got a lot of respect for Hamilton at the moment because he's not just thinking about himself, about his performances. He's also thinking about the fans, thinking, I want them to have spent the money for the right reasons, not because the race was boring and not been a waste of money. He wants to see good racing.
Yeah, that's the most important thing I think at the minute is that they need to show that the fans get money out of it, because it's a lot of money to go and watch F1 now,
especially the travelling.
Yeah, and it's a lot of money. Even at Silverstone, it's quite expensive for like grandstand tickets. And if you watch a race where the leader goes around 60 laps and doesn't have any threat towards him, towards getting that win, then it is boring and it's a lot of money. And I think he understands that now. But I also think he understands that it's the first time ever that two four-time world champions of facing each other in a season.
That's pretty.
And obviously
exciting.
He wants to come out on top and be the fifth, to win it 5 times and beat Vettel to that. So, I think that he is probably going to be on it more than he has been in a couple of seasons. I did say last week that Bottas is going to try and give him a run for his money. It's a long season, and I think he still has that time to improve. But when he crashed out in qualifying, you just looked at Toto Wolff, and he's thinking, "Damn, we need to find somebody else," because it was driver error, and I think Bottas realizes that he needs to perform this season. Otherwise, halfway through they could be finding somebody else. I mean, Daniel Ricciardo's out of contract. They could find somebody like that. So Bottas needs to improve. But, for Hamilton, we talked about it after the race, that he was just sitting in his car for a good 5 minutes, twiddling his thumbs, just thinking about, what happened and how he'd gone from pole position to second place. And
because he literally sat there like he just lost the world championship, like he lost it to Nico Rosberg again.
Well, I think because it was such an important race, he wanted to start the season well by winning the first race. And I think also with the way that they'd lost it, with, they said it was a computer glitch, or, the way that the virtual safety car helped Vettel. And I think, that's probably annoying because it was not really something he could do much about. It was more that the pit stop and the computer glitches couldn't really, they hampered it, and Hamilton couldn't do much about it. I mean, he tried to have a push, and that's something that we discussed on the Let's Talk Sports show, is that I said that he sounds more like a fan, like you said, that he's like, shall I push? Oh no, I'm just going to push. And that's what the fans want. They want the drivers to just go, oh, whatever, I'm going for this. Yeah. And even though he didn't overtake him, that's all you want to hear as a fan. You want to be like, yeah, he's going for it, because you don't want him just going, oh, I'll sit back and take second place, because that's not fun at all, is it?
No, absolutely not. And obviously we do hope that is to happen throughout the rest of the season. Anyway, let's talk about the third place man. And he really was cold on Sunday after the race, wasn't he? Kimi Räikkönen. He was on the podium with Mark Webber. Obviously, Mark Webber doing the interviews. He's not a driver anymore. In case I'm just putting the facts out there. In case you thought for a moment he came back and you missed something. No, he is not racing anymore. He is in the media now. But he came onto the stage, interviewed Vettel. He seems to get on with Vettel fine now. Obviously, if they were still in the same cars, then it'd be a different discussion. But then he walked up to Kimi Räikkönen, and obviously it was sunny, as it always is in Melbourne for the Australian Grand Prix. He had his shades on already. He must have made sure, because they have people coming on to give them the hats and all that. He must have put in a request for the season. Every time I get a podium, you've got to put my sunglasses in as well. Ray-Ban pay for my sponsors.
When they pass the hat over, the sunglasses are in the hat, and he's just like, oh yeah, okay,
perfect, thank you.
Yeah,
and he literally wore them, and Mark Webber was talking to him. You wouldn't know what emotions he had. Such an ice cold man, and he even wore them in the press conference afterwards. Anyway, this is what he had to say by getting third. He didn't seem that happy about the result, but yet again, even if Kimi Räikkönen won the World Championship again, you'd think he's not the happiest man in the world. This is what he had to say.
The speed was pretty decent, and not the most luckiest with the safety car, but that's how it goes, and it was for our team, so it's not ideal to be third, but I think the feeling has been pretty decent, so that's the main thing. And it's only the first race. We have pretty awful racing to be done this year. So we have had some changes, and it made not absolute zero difference, but in certain situations it could make. So we just need to be sharp to inform, and maybe it was very obvious for them, and they would have told if I would have slowed down to go faster. So we were absolutely safe on that, but I rather know. So there's no, once it's too late, it's too late. So, but today made no difference whatsoever.
Kimi Räikkönen there after getting third, and I guess we do expect him to be the number 2 driver at Ferrari. But do you ever think at some point Kimi Räikkönen, he finished higher than Vettel did in qualifying? Do you think there was a plan from Ferrari at the start of the race to basically say to him, our priority is for Vettel to finish as high as he can, with you below him? Do you think that was at all on the cards?
I don't know, because although we assume that Vettel's first driver, no, they've never stated it. So
No,
I'd like to think that both of them are equal. And Kimi Räikkönen was actually a lot better in qualifying than Sebastian Vettel was, and that was a great lap from Kimi. And he was fighting Hamilton in the first few laps for first position, and that was another thing that I quite like to see, is that Kimi Räikkönen normally he's just happy in 4th place or something like that, but he looked like he wanted that, wanted the win. But I think when he took the first pit stop, and obviously as first driver, in the lead of the 2 cars, you get that choice if you want to come first or second, and obviously he got that. But like it's been stated everywhere, that Vettel just got lucky to an extent in the fact that both Hamilton and Raikkonen had already pitted, and then when Grosjean and Haas had their implosion,
which we'll talk about.
Yeah, then Vettel just came in at the right time and got lucky and got ahead of Hamilton and Raikkonen to an extent. But I think Raikkonen overall had a very good race, and although he doesn't sound like he had one, I think he'll be pretty pleased with it.
Can you imagine his wedding day? You just got married. Wah. It's like it's meant to be the best day of your life. Wah.
He's got sunglasses on.
He's got some. Can you imagine him wearing it in his wedding suit? You know what? I can imagine.
He probably did.
I'd love to see. You know how they always have a wedding photographer. To the wedding photographer. I don't know if Kimi got married. I've no idea. I know he's got a partner. I think he did. He is a father as well, so it makes sense. To that wedding photographer, if you are watching, please get in touch with Let's Talk Sport. I want to see the photos. I want to see him in shades in a wedding suit. I don't care if they have to do the wedding again. It's not like he can't afford it with his wages.
I think if I was to do that, I'd get everybody in the whole who went to the wedding to have sunglasses on and have like a group picture.
Maybe at his funeral. Oh, that's a bit depressing, isn't it? Oh dear.
Oh no.
It came out. I just had to. I regret it already. Anyway, there was a funny moment after qualifying on Saturday where, of course, Hamilton got pole position, Vettel second, and Raikkonen starting in third. And as Hamilton was basically, well, Vettel said that obviously Hamilton will be partying tonight, but it'll be Ferrari partying the next day. And how right he was. Listen to this press conference, because this is a great Kimi Räikkönen moment. And if you love Raikkonen, you don't even hear him. You just know what he's trying to do by being ice cold as ice. That was terrible. Anyway, here it is.
I think, what goes around comes around. So, it's the end of the day, that's why we're here. We want to have fun. So if that's what he enjoys, obviously on Saturdays, he's doing pretty well. Maybe
it really was a joke, dude.
I know, but maybe we can have
him to want to wipe the smile
he's free to have a party tonight, and then hopefully Kimi and myself have the party tomorrow.
Well, Kimi parties all the time, so I guess.
I love that. It's so fun. I don't know if Hamilton feels awkward or not in that scene, because getting no word and not even a smile or a smirk from Kimi Räikkönen. Hopefully that wasn't. I don't know what to
I think Kimi had zoned out by then.
He probably just thought, I don't care. I just want to go back to the hotel, enjoy my biscuits. You can't
Put a picture on Instagram.
Yeah. I'm surprised he hasn't done any videoing from the press conference table like Hamilton did once on Snapchat. Come on, Kimi. Remember, he is on Instagram. It's great. I love it. I even saw his picture on the flight back. It just said homebound. And it looked like he was watching, I don't know what film. But I'm sorry.
He's a man of few words.
He's a man of few words. But if he says he has jet lag when he gets back home to Finland, I don't hear any excuses. He's got a 5-star like hotel bit on the plane or something because it looked amazingly comfortable. Anyway, we must move on. I mean, I would talk about Daniel Ricciardo. We'll talk about him in a bit, but we've got to talk about Haas. Now, at one point in the race, they were 4th and 5th, taking over from Max Verstappen after he spun. But luckily for the Dutchman, he did stay on the track and finish. But I can't believe what happened. Haas were 4th and 5th, the team that everyone was saying in pre-season, these could be the team to watch and could be the threat for 4th place against McLaren and Force India. And then all of a sudden, Grosjean, Magnussen was the first to go out. Then Grosjean went out, having to park the cars because of a simple wheel nut problem.
But it was crazy because you saw Magnussen stop on track and we weren't really sure what it was. And then you could see the pit crews of them all going, hang on, we haven't put the wheel on properly and the gun's not working. And then literally as soon as they'd zoomed away from Magnussen getting out of the car, you turn out and you see Grosjean going slowly and you're going, what is going on?
What is going on? Yeah.
Both cars in the space of 2 laps, it's just disappearing, and then suddenly you see him going all angry and getting disappointed again because they're all going, it's the same problem, and it's like how has that happened? And I don't know whether it was the air not getting into the wheel gun and obviously the wheel not being on properly, and Gunter Steiner, the team boss of Haas, said they hadn't practiced enough, but of course they're going to practice. It's a new season. They've got to get back ready. Or even the drivers get ready in simulators and that. So everybody should be ready for that. So I don't buy that. But something must have gone wrong in that. And we've already talked about it. But the disappointment on the faces and the anger. The guy who after Magnussen, he went running in and he slammed the door, back into the garage. And it means so much. I mean, obviously the drivers are the poster boys, as it were, for F1, but everybody in that team always wants to get points and always wants to try and do their best. So, for them to lose both cars for the same problem in 2 laps, it's just so disappointing. And even even Grosjean had to sort of comfort one of the mechanics because he was just so, I don't know, disappointed and bewildered of what happened. But
I mean, it's hard to take in, isn't it, if you're a Haas member or even a fan of the drivers, because it would have been their best finish. And I know it's a long season. Haas can come back from this. I'm sure they will. Yeah. But it's moments like that where if the season did get worse or the potential was already there, they can look back and think that could have been our best finish. And looking back now, come the last race of the season, Abu Dhabi, if they just needed a few more points to have finished 4th, maybe that would have been the race to have done it.
Yeah, well, the problem is for Haas that could get worse is the fact that they've got a good car now, and if other teams around them get upgrades and they go above Haas, and Haas don't maybe make as better upgrades as Force India or McLaren or Renault. Then they really are going to look at them points missed in Australia and go, a wheel gun has cost us, or, something as minor as that in an F1 car. How complex is an F1 car, and it's the wheel gun that causes the issue. And, it's really bad. But in a positive view, the car looked really good. And it was keeping Max Verstappen at bay, and Magnussen went past him on the first corner. So, the positives is that they do look good. And let's just hope that problem doesn't happen for them again, because like you said, they could be challenging for that 4th spot.
Could they be like the Sauber team of 2012, which was formed of Kobayashi and Perez? Do you think that they could be one of those teams that could perhaps get 1 or 2 podium finishes?
Yeah, I think so. I think if they're in the right place at the right time, sort of like what Vettel was. I mean, it only takes maybe a retirement from one of the big guys and maybe like the instances of Rosberg Hamilton in Spain that year when they crashed each other out. It only takes a few cars out the top to disappear, and the people under in the middle class have the chance to capitalize on that and get a few podiums. Look when Fernando Alonso finished in Australia. I mean, obviously it looks better than probably it was because, had Bottas and Ricciardo not had problems in qualifying, had the Hasses in the race not, both gone out, then he probably would have just been 9th or 10th. But because of that, he finished 5th, and it's a great result. Van Dorn finished 9th. As well.
Yep.
So, it looked a great day for McLaren. I think it looked better than it probably was. But like I said, a couple of cars go out and, you go up the order. So for Haas, I think, they still have that potential, sure.
We'll mention Daniel Ricciardo and Red Bull now because a bit of a disappointing weekend maybe for Red Bull, but obviously only there's only 3 places on the podium, and it's always going to be perhaps between Mercedes and Ferrari, and maybe a bit of Red Bull during the season. But is there a worry? Because Dr. Helmut Marko did say they were a few tenths of a second slower than they were hoping for. Is this just because it's in Australia, or?
Well, I said in my when I wrote in my blog, go check it out.
Yeah, go check it out. The link will be in the description, so you can't miss it.
But I said that he was overall happy with his performance because he got fastest lap of the race. Red Bull were sort of in contention, and I think had he not had that 3-place grid penalty, he might have been in a better place than he was, and he was having a go at Raikkonen and pushing Raikkonen for that 3rd place, and he was only 7 tenths away at the end. And I think the only disappointing thing was the fact that they are maybe not as close as they'd like to be, like Helmut Marko said, but it's not as far away as they've been for the last couple of years.
Yeah.
So that Renault power unit as a whole for all teams has improved. So I think over the few races, I think they're only going to get better. So
moving on to McLaren.
Hey.
Great weekend. Great weekend. It was a good weekend. What on earth is going on?
Yeah.
But I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
Alonso 5th, and Van Dorn 9th, which gives them an overall points of 12 points,
which is higher than last season. I'm not sure. I think it was.
I believe you because last season it didn't happen.
Yeah.
Last
3 years didn't happen.
Last 3 years didn't happen. Last 5 years didn't happen. But Alonso getting 5th, and I wished I had it on me, but for the podcast, but his team radio afterwards was so positive and upbeat because before the weekend, Alonso did basically say this isn't going to be a good weekend for us, but it'll get better. And so, you consider that and think, okay, fair enough. But when you get 5th with your best driver of the team as well, it does make you think, maybe podium is possible. But it was when he said on the team radio that, it's been a long winter, long seasons, but now we can fight. We can fight now. That straight away just makes me so excited, especially for the McLaren fans. Is this the season where McLaren can start challenging, not for the championship? I don't think they're going to go that far. Early days, but maybe a few podium places?
Yeah, I think, like I said, if a few of the top drivers, maybe retire or have incidents, then I think they're definitely there with maybe the Haas team. And obviously, like I said, the Haas is disappearing, helped Alonso get up there, but he did cause a bit of a train, which I noticed in the fact that he was holding quite a lot of drivers back. For him to Van Dorn and almost Carlos Sainz in the end were sort of all in like this little train just following Alonso around. But he had the power, which he didn't have last year, to keep Verstappen at bay. Which says a lot. I know overtaking isn't as good in Melbourne as other places. Maybe Bahrain will be different, but he was able to keep Verstappen in the Red Bull behind. And McLaren have said for a few years we have the best chassis. Red Bull say they have the best aero package, and it'll be good to see if both teams can fight over the season to see which one is better overall. But yeah, as a McLaren fan, it was nice to hear that, and it oozes confidence. Like I said, that maybe Vettel needs to. Him on the radio going, yeah, let's fight, team. That's what they want, and that's what the fans want as well, because for the last few years, they haven't been fighting anywhere.
And Alonso, if you listen to his compilation of even 2017 on the Let's Talk Sport channel of his team radio, he just didn't care anymore during races. He even said it to the mechanics, which, that just said it all. But his mood has changed, and hopefully it's for the greater good. We must move on. Max Verstappen 6th, Nico Hülkenberg 7th for Renault. So that was Renault's highest finish of the weekend. Valtteri Bottas 8th, as we've just mentioned. Van Dorn 9th to get 2 points for McLaren, and Carlos Sainz getting 10th as well for Renault. So Renault looking good so far, but this is not good start for Force India. Perez and Ocon 11th and 12th. So they didn't get any points. Martin Brundle said on Sky Sports, they play the long game, Force India, but let's not forget they couldn't even get into Q3, which is on and off now and again depending on what circuit. But
for both drivers, not
for
to
both
get in.
drivers, yeah. And Ocon has done very well in his first season. It's now his second, not a great start, but surely Force India are going to be looking over their shoulders this season, think not only have we got Haas trying to get our 4th position, but as well we've got McLaren, who, let's be honest, they've got the finances and the backing.
Yeah, and Renault as well.
And Renault. It's going to be interesting.
That's why we think the midfield's looking pretty tasty, shall we say.
Leaving Toro Rosso and Sauber behind those.
Yeah,
those
and Williams possibly as well.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they chatted to Bob Fernley, who was one of the heads of Force India, and he said, we're not panicking because this time last year we struggled in Australia, and as the year progressed, we got better and better, and we managed to get the 4th place. So, we're not worrying straight away, but I think in-house they will be, because the fact that both of the drivers couldn't even get into Q3, even if they just got one and he only got 10th, as long as one of them gets in, it does make it better. But the fact that neither of them got in, it is a bit disappointing. And I obviously know, and people who watch this probably should know, that Jamie Davies is a Sergio Perez fan. So I think Jamie was very disappointed in the fact that, to be fair, even in the race, they weren't anywhere, were they?
No, I forgot about them. You can't
They're
miss
pink,
them.
but I didn't see them.
Yeah. I was going to say, you can't miss them. They're pink. But no, it wasn't a great weekend. But they play the long game, Force India. They're known for actually throwing it all in the first half of the season, but in the past now, they've been good at it all season long. So we'll find out. That's the thing with the first race. We can't jump to conclusions. There's still 20 races to go. Charles Leclerc from Sauber, he got 13th. Alfa Romeo, not a bad start for him. He beat his teammate of Marcus Ericsson, even though he was in the garage most of the time because the car stopped. Lance Stroll for Williams. Brendan Hartley, at least he got a finish. Toro Rosso, I feel they're just going to be either second last or third last in the constructors this season.
It's crazy though, because winter testing, they were the 3rd most reliable engine, Honda.
Wow, we'll talk.
And then you look at it, and was it an engine failure for
Pierre Gasly? And you know what I was thinking? I bet Alonso drove past and went, "Now you know how I feel."
Yeah, well, it's even worse this year because you're only allowed 3 engines throughout the whole season.
Where is that rule come from?
Oh, it's crazy.
How are you gonna
5 was bad enough.
5, how can you get through 3 engines in 1 year?
Yeah, well, Honda's lost one already for Pierre Gasly, so he's obviously going to get penalties.
What?
It's just
I was going to say, is it money they get, or is it just positions they get fines for?
They get grid penalties, don't they? But I don't know whether Honda get fined for it. The team don't. Honda will.
Oh yeah, because it's their
and
engine.
Obviously Gasly will get penalties for taking the engine. But
that's not fair.
It's just silly, isn't it? They were supposed to be clamping down on stupid penalties, and then here they
made
go
it worse.
doing that. Yeah,
Charlie Whiting sorted out.
Yeah.
Anyway, Romain Grosjean and Magnus, as we mentioned, for Haas. Hopefully that'll be their last retirements because of a wheel nut.
Let's hope so, yeah.
You better get training. You got 2 weeks yet, Haas, back in HQ in America. And Pierre Gasly, as we mentioned, Marcus Ericsson. And here's a really strange one. The Williams youngster, Sergei Sorokin, his first race in F1, so quite a big day for him it was on Sunday. But it was a retirement which wasn't his fault. It was a plastic bag that went into the insides of the car and basically just blew up.
Somebody that bought a sandwich during the event went, I don't need this bag anymore. It rolled onto the track and it went straight into the Williams. That's what I'm guessing.
You mean the guy with the sandwiches was Robert Kubica?
Yeah. Or Felipe Massa. It's like, have this. But yeah, it's just crazy, innit? A wheel gun stops both Haas drivers and a plastic bag stops the Williams. It just shows how strange the F1 can be. Yeah, yeah. But the thing also is that Williams just aren't looking. They're looking worse than they were last season, and they were bad last season.
It was funny because Harry Wright, who of course you do see on Let's Talk Sport about F1, I was talking to him the other night by text, and we were saying, McLaren lack of sponsors, not exciting, and then he was saying, Williams could be it's gone downhill. We all know that, but he kept saying, McLaren could be doing a Williams soon, which is now a tradition that. A big team once that could win your world championships and constructors championships are now nowhere to be seen on the circuit.
Yeah, the problem is for me for Williams is I know that their driver lineup is 1 for money and 2 for getting younger drivers in, and I understand that. But when you in your worst possible position and you need a driver to tell you what you need, neither of them are experienced enough to say we need this, we need that, and the car will be better. Kubica is obviously going to help in that extent, but having Felipe Massa helped obviously because he knew what needed changing. He's like, well, we need this upgrade, we'll need this upgrade. Whereas with 2 young drivers who are very inexperienced in Formula One, it's going to be difficult for them to give any really advice. So Kubica, who isn't actually the main driver, is probably going to be the most important one in the team because he'll know what they need more than them to. So,
final thoughts on the race?
I give it a 7 out of 10.
7 out of 10
because it didn't blow my mind with
No.
overtakes and oh wow, I can't, F1's back, but it did show me things that could happen over the season. It wasn't boring where 2 overtakes happened like 2017, and it obviously showed to me that F1 in 2018 could be a close battle at the top and most importantly in the midfield.
Don't judge a book by its cover unless you're like me. Anyway, let's quickly look at the constructors' standings. So Ferrari at top with 40 points, and they are 18 points ahead of Mercedes. Red Bull in third with 20. McLaren 12. We're fourth. McLaren fourth. Hooray. And by the way, we are McLaren fans here on the Pole Position podcast. Renault fifth. Force India with 0. Nil Poir from Sauber. Williams, Toro Rosso. And who'd have thought...
They're just rubbing that in, putting Haas at the bottom, aren't they?
Just put Haas at the bottom. I mean, alphabetical order. Come on, H goes before T of Toro Rosso.
That's just harsh.
That's just harsh. Anyway, Bahrain is in next 2 weeks. Of course, it's a night race, the first night race of the calendar. Vettel won there last season. Who knows? Who knows? Let us know what you think. Who do you think will win the Bahrain Grand Prix? Will it be Vettel? Will it be Hamilton? Could it be Raikkonen for a change, who hasn't won a race since the 2013 Australian Grand Prix? Anyway, my thanks to Jack Price for your contribution to the show. Make sure you check out his blog, which is...
just go to jackprice.com.
I thought it was itsjackprice.com.
Well, yeah, it could be. It's jackprice.com. You'll find it either way.
It's in the description. It's in the description.
Yeah, don't bother. Just look in the description.
And thanks to you at home for watching and listening to the show. And of course, remember to subscribe to Let's Talk Sport for more. Thank you for watching.